Hello and welcome to Game Theory. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today, we're going to break down some tape from Ben Saraf from over the weekend. His team, Ratiopharm Ulm, played Bamberg over in the German league, and he ended up with 20 points and 4 assists. More than anything, we got a chance to see a lot of the skills that make him such an interesting prospect that I currently have rated in the lottery, but a lot of teams are hit or miss on. He's very polarizing. Some teams have him in that lottery range currently. Some have him more as like a late first round pick at this point, and you'll see why as we go through the tape. He's a player that really took the international basketball scene by storm this summer at the under 18 European Championships, where he won MVP after averaging 28 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Was an absolutely fantastic player for that Israeli national team at that event. And what makes him so interesting is this ability to play both on and off the ball while also having a jump shot that scouts have some interesting takes on, and we'll certainly dissect it here. But let's dive in. Let's talk about Ben Saraf's game from over the weekend against Bamberg for Ulm. Okay, so Saraf came off the bench in this game. He's mostly been starting for Ulm throughout the course of the season. This is him, number 77. If you haven't gotten a chance to see him yet, plays a lot of point guard for Ulm. That is a first place to start. He just ends up playing a lot on the ball for them. But as you'll see throughout this game, a lot of his offense actually came off the ball in this game, which is kind of why I wanted to talk about it. So let's just kind of dive in and see where we land here. So you can already see where this one's going, but he brings the ball up the court, throws kind of a wild pass to a cutter baseline. It's fine. It's aggressive. He thinks he has him. What I think he's seeing is that this player is looking this way while his man is cutting back door. And this will speak to one of the issues for Saraf, is that these windows close quite quickly, right? He sees it here, but Saraf is a very left-hand dominant player. You will see that throughout this tape. I promise you, he is extremely left-hand dominant, almost in a similar way to somebody like an RJ Barrett. But unlike RJ, he can also really pass. He throws a lot of really high-level live dribble passes with that left hand. But when the ball's in his right hand, he actually tends to have to gather into his left to be able to throw passes. And as you'll see here, by the time he gathers into that right hand, the man has already turned and sees what's going on. I think this is kind of a prime example of just how quickly windows close in professional basketball, and why when we talk about being able to pass off of a live dribble, it's a really essential skill for a lead guard, not just with the left hand or not just with a right hand if you're a dominant right hand player, but with both hands. This is one where if Saraf was able to turn his body and gather with the right here, right when he sees it, and throw this now, or even here now, he can anticipate that his man is going to be right in this area. But because he has to gather, that window closes. The thing that Saraf probably has to work on more than anything else is just the overall dexterity of his right hand. That and the jumper are really the two things that stand out, but we'll dissect more than that. He gets a little bit lucky here. Ball ends up getting tipped out, ends up resulting in a 3, but watch for the right hand, I would say, throughout the course of this video. By and large, it will be a very positive video, but it is worth discussing that clip as a real prime example of something that is going on with Saraf. So here, this gets toward one of Saraf's biggest tendencies in ball screens. First and foremost, you can see not a particularly explosive player necessarily, but what he does super well is decelerate. I think his pickups are always really on point. The way he gathers is really on point. His footwork is outstanding, but his superpower is his ability to decelerate and slow down more than anything. don't get like a great view of that here, but the tendency that we do get a great view of is his desire to reject ball screens and his comfort level rejecting ball screens. He's fine dribbling with his right hand. He can put the ball on the ground and eat up space. That's not really an issue for him here. The other thing that Saraf really has is vision. He's a terrific, terrific passer. And he's really good at creating angles. I think he understands this entire time that Noah Essengay, another prospect in his own right, is here. And I think that particularly what he's looking for, as you can see his eyes, he's looking for Essengay's man to have helped onto the roller and thus to have opened up this window to pass. He does a great job of looking at the help defenders, by and large. Creates an open window. Next, going to take this ball screen. One thing worth tracking here with Saraf throughout the season as well, kind of takes looping lines with the ball. Kind of has to take those rounded lines in order to do anything, as opposed to knifing into the defense, right? Like his man gets through this screen here and he ends up kind of taking a looping kind of line around there. Gives the defense a little bit more time to recover because, again, he's not the most explosive guy in the world. Ends up taking a pound dribble, but throws a very accurate live dribble left-hand pass, right? This is the thing that I mentioned he struggles with the left. He has a pretty laser beam on point ability to pass with that left hand whenever he gathers, and he can do it directly off the bounce. He has no problem throwing that ball right into a shooting pocket accurately and being able to pinpoint that ball where he needs to. This one here, I grabbed some defensive clips as well. It's interesting. So Ulm, by and large, does tend to play a bit of offense defense with Saraf in a way that I'm a little bit confused by. He certainly has a few moments where he does end up getting over aggressive, but I don't think he is a bad defender. I think by and large, he is very aggressive. He does a good job with his hands. And I think he fights over screens well. There are some quickness-based issues that we'll touch on a couple times in this video. But in general, I think he does a pretty okay job of knowing where to be. So I'm a little bit surprised that Ulm and their coaching staff is a bit aggressive playing him in these offense-defense situations. This one here, you can see very aggressive, gets a hand on the ball, right? This one, kind of watching the play react, keeping track of his man. I love this. This just kind of shows exactly how aware of what's happening he is. So this is setting up here for what's hopefully going to be a back cut this way. They're hoping that Saraf stays home on the shooter. Essengay stays here. And this man's going to open up at the rim right here. But Saraf is going to recognize this immediately, right? He steps in, he jumps in to bump the cutter here, right? He makes it so this man doesn't have a free line to the rim. If he doesn't step in and bump this cutter here, the screener has clipped the cutter's man here. He's trailing. The Ulm big is coming out this way. Essengay has no clue on the backside here because he is to be responsible one pass away for the shooter. If Saraf doesn't bump this cutter here, this is a wide open pass. This is just small stuff on defense that is really, really important. It ends up mattering. He gives his man that chance to recover back into the play. And it results in a missed shot and a stop for Ulm. They get the rebound. They finish the play. This one here. So Saraf's man, as you can see on this play to start, is right here. He's the one responsible for guarding the backside shooter, but he recognizes here, oh shit, Essengay probably has to take this guy. We've got a man on the ball here, so he can't vacate the ball. There's a trailer coming back. This man basically has to be responsible for a 1-on-2. So Saraf steps up and cuts off that angle. Well, also notice just he's still directly in the line of this skip pass here. A, if the skip pass is too low, he might be able to jump and get that for a steal, but B, he's going to be able to recover out if it's on a looping line. So even just the positioning here is really, really solid while waiting for the man here back at the end of the play there. You might be able to see him all the way at the end of the screen on your left to recover back in. He recovers, the man recovers backside. So Saraf ends up stepping up, taking the man at the top of the key here. He recognizes that his man gets beat on the baseline. Helps. Does a great job kind of forcing that steal, which is an easy transition bucket. Again, like there are moments where I think Ben Saraf does a really, really good job on defense. I don't want to overstate it necessarily. There are moments where he does get a little bit caught being over aggressive, but I think that Ulm could give him a little or trust him a little bit more is the way to put it. So here, Bamberg blitzes the ball. He ends up hitting, I believe, his roll man there for an easy bucket. So ball comes back out. Again, you see immediate idea here is to reject the screen. They hard hedge out with the big, which means this man rolling into space here. I honestly wonder, having watched this play a couple of times now, if Saraf is trying to hit the baseline cutter here and just kind of gets caught in the air a little bit because you're going to see he's going to jump pass it, right? He could just honestly be passing into a space knowing he has a 2-on-1. He could just recognize the advantage that his team has and he passes into an area. I do think he's trying to hit this guy and ends up putting it like basically right on the money. It just is that his roller has leverage here on the big, who recognizes that this pass is coming in, but he jumps to actually open up the angle. It is very similar to stuff that Tyrese Halliburton does. Halliburton is a very willing jump passer. Jump passes don't always necessarily have to be bad. Sometimes they're totally fine. This is an example of that. You're opening up a passing angle over the top of this player here on the ball, who you have a size advantage on. Ben Saraf is somewhere in the 6'5", 6'6" vicinity. So by jumping, you're opening up that passing angle into here where you very clearly have an advantage. Again, I'm not sure if he's passing here or if he's passing here. Honestly, I kind of think he's passing to the cutter, but regardless, he's passing into a huge advantage situation here. Ends up being an easy bucket. That might be all of his assists for the day. He has a couple of other impressive passes, but that's it. I think 3 or 4 already. Again, rejects the ball screen on this play. Early pass, right? And this is one where we can just see exactly what he's looking at. He's immediately recognizing that this man has come in help. And now I think he's reading these two players here and trying to figure out, are they going to stay at home on their guys or are they going to help? Because if they help, his first option is probably here. This would be option 2. And this would be option 3, depending on who helps. He wants this guy to help first. He wants this man to help second. And if not, he's always got that trailer coming from behind. He ends up picking the ball up. And what he sees as he picks the ball up is that he's got this guy cutting. So I think he's making a decision to jump here, get in the air, and figure out the way that this guy on the backside is going to play it. Is he going to commit to the cutter or is he going to commit to the wing? Saraf sees that this guy commits to the cutter, decides to shoot the ball out to the wing, ends up in a quick reversal. That's pretty good. That's good offense. That is a drive, kick, reverse, three. You're very happy if you get that opportunity for an open corner three-pointer from a good shooter. This one, you notice, by the way, we're at 90 seconds left in the first half. Ulm has scored 46 points. In a game where Saraf has scored or is going to score 20 points, hasn't scored yet. So this one, as you can see, shot clock running down, 4.9 seconds. Saraf's going to catch out high, realize it's just going to have to go up, and he drills it. Just talk real quick about the shot, right? This is a shot off the catch. Saraf, by and large, has not been a great shooter from three-point range. The mechanics are a bit questionable. They don't always end up in rhythm, it feels like. So far this year for Ulm, he's taken 11 catch and shoot threes, made them at a 45% clip. The three-pointers off the dribble have not gone particularly well. He's 1 for 11 in that regard, but he is 7 for 16 on his mid-range jumpers to this point so far, which he has had a few games where he's really, really been terrific making mid-range jumpers. So what do we see here? 1-2 step in, just from a balance perspective, right? It does feel like there's a bit of a backward lean from where the toes are to where the basketball is going to end up, right? So just from a balance perspective, it doesn't look incredible. The second thing is it is like a bit too motiony, right? Like he's going to stop in the shooting pocket there and bring the ball up. It's a bit mechanical, a bit robotic. You can see why he struggles a little bit at times on pull-ups, right? Look, if he can make this shot at a 40% clip off the catch, he's like 100% an NBA player. No questions asked. I'm a little bit skeptical that he is a real 40% shooter. He has moments of tremendous touch. But yeah, there are some things to work on with the jumper. There are definitely some things to work on with the jumper over the course of the next few years. But by and large, I think there is enough touch there to where he can get to a respectable level. This one, look at that, just fights over the top of the screen. Very clear that following an inbounds play, pass to the corner. He's guarding the inbounder. They're trying to get to a dribble handoff. And he's just going to shoot here and cut it off. And that's going to set up a circumstance where his man can get his hand in there after he denies that dribble handoff. Again, these might not seem like big things on defense, but to me, they showcase that there is a lot of potential for him on defense. He knows what to do. He plays with a motor. He plays with effort. He has really good hands. I'm not saying that these are perfect moments by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think he is an unwilling defender. I don't think he's really a bad defender. I thought he played pretty well on defense in this game. Next up, defensively, just point him out. He's in the corner over here, guarding on the ball. You get a ball screen rejection here. Cuts off the angle, forces him baseline. Gets a little bit physical, but physical without fouling, in my opinion. Does get beat slightly here in a way that you worry a little bit about, certainly against NBA players. An NBA guard would very likely have taken this angle and probably even had a split second extra separation, right? But man, that's pretty good. Forces baseline, forces the turnover, doesn't get a steal, doesn't get anything for it, but that's a stop by him. This one here, you're going to get kind of an example of just how loose he can get with the ball from time to time. Again, the right hand is a little bit questionable. He jumps up, realizes clock's running down, 17 seconds after the inbound. He's going to have to cross half court at some point here. Throws this Hail Mary up, ends up being a turnover. But again, to his ability to stick to it, to kind of fight through it all, cuts off the first drive, gets back in the play, gets up over the screen, gets back into the play. I think he blocks that shot there. If he doesn't, God help us, from that shooter, which I think is Kyle Lofton, who played for Florida last year. But again, just gets around, navigates, gets back in the play, does a pretty good job. Lofton thinks he got fouled. I'm not super convinced that wasn't ball. Again, just really, really good, solid defensive work from Saraf, and he made up for it from a turnover. He does have that very short memory, that goldfish memory, in terms of being willing to just move past the play, which is really important. So again, by the way, 4 minutes left in the third here, still only that 3 points from Saraf. Now we're getting into it though. This is just a really sharp cut. So what does Saraf see here? So the ball screen reject forces the big to stay attached here. Ends up being a pick and pop from the roller. Guard is trying to recover as they're in drop. Point guard makes the pass out here to the big. Saraf's man has to rotate over to account for the shooting big. Saraf sees the head turn and just immediately sees the engagement and goes, right? Just sharp awareness here, right? Really sharp awareness. Good footwork on the gather to get up for the rim. This one, again, draws a foul. You're going to see Saraf's very comfortable. I feel like a lot of defenders in general right now are playing him aggressively on the left side because he is as left-hand dominant as he is. So he's just going to be comfortable eating space by and large. That is something that, you know, he's capable of dribbling with his right hand and eating space. Clearly, I think that this was a strategy for Bamberg where they wanted, anytime it was a ball screen on the right side of the court with Saraf, ice this, I would imagine, or they were going to try and blitz it. Probably one of the two. This one, I think that they're probably setting up, in all honesty, to blitz it with how this guy is coming out here. The guard here is expecting a screen. The screen never comes, but it's essentially a ball screen reject, and it looks very similar for Saraf. Saraf has a number of options here. He could try and go for this little mid-range shot. He could try and just hit this little dump off here as this guy cuts in. But the reason that I think he doesn't hit the dump off and instead tries to go up for this little Dirk fadeaway move and gets fouled and it ends up being a successful play is, again, the lack of right hand, because the play here is he's got this open pocket here where this guy's coming in and he knows that this guy's coming into this area. If he was comfortable passing with the right hand, that's just like a little pocket pass. But because he's not super comfortable passing with the right hand yet, he ends up gathering, going up for the shot, getting the foul call, I think, on the smaller guard, kind of raking across the arms there. Gets the foul. So I just wanted to put a couple free throws on. I do think that by and large, the balance here is a little bit better, but his body does look a little bit twisted. Got kind of the knees going out this way. You've got the ass out this way. You've got him kind of going up that way. It just doesn't look like a comfortable shot. And when that happens, you're going to have some weird rhythm stuff get through. It just feels like the shot is a bit arrhythmic to me. We'll get a make later at the line. But when you have that many kind of moving parts where your knees are going forward, your ass is going out, you're kind of stopping at this point here with the shot right in the shooting pocket, you might end up with some strange results. I would argue you might end up with just some inconsistencies in your jumper. This one, again, just showcases that willingness to go right. Ends up getting fouled on the lower half. Really should make that, but ends up getting bailed out. But ends up kind of almost acting as like a double drag DHO kind of action there, where he's going to be able to get downhill. And you're going to get to see some of this like deceleration that I talk about, right? Nasty little Euro step. He plays at a very awkward tempo, I think, for bigs and for opposing players to deal with around the basket. Does a great job of keeping this big man on his hip with that Euro step and with that slow step. Slows down, strides out, gets past him so that it's going to be really hard for that player to recover back into the play. Realizes he has the small. I'm guessing that he got clipped there somewhere. I'm guessing that he just got hit on the elbow, maybe right there by this guy, and that ends up throwing it off. Obviously, would like to see him finish that play. This one, you're going to get to see just where his hand is on the ball. Feels like it's a little bit off to the side-ish to me, and that the front hand here is just kind of very involved. It's like almost, it's not quite in front of the ball, but it's close to being in front of the ball. He ends up making this one, but there's some little small tweaks. Like I think that he could probably move the guide hand a little bit off. I think that, you know, the balance is still something he's going to work through to stop fading away as much. These are things where 18 years old, I think he'll probably be fine. Next up, this one, he just ends up driving to the rim, sees an advantage, slows down there for a second with a little hesitation, then drives out. Again, long strides for a guy that's like 6'5". Look at him kind of extend that left leg out there. Load up. Tends to be a very comfortable finisher off of 1 foot. This time went off of 2, I think, because he ended up kind of picking up his dribble a little bit farther away from the rim than what is normal. Also ends up getting this man here kind of digging in to the dribble from that wing. Goes up off of 2 feet. I think that shot might have been blocked. This one, he's trailing, gets the reversal, drives. And that's an example that I was just talking about literally a second ago, where you're going to get to see the deceleration, the footwork, and his ability to navigate bodies in the lane, avoid contact while still going straight toward the rim. He doesn't have a lot of moments where he fades away from the basket either. That's a really critical thing that I wanted to make sure to point out here. You can see he goes pick up, left, right, goes up off of the right, navigates the body around the rim, finishes. Really good, like just mini screen. I don't even know if that's seal necessarily. Goes up here off of the right, navigates the help coming in, finishes the rim. Right hand finish as well at the rim. As much as he doesn't feel super comfortable passing with the right, I feel like does seem to be pretty comfortable finishing with the right around the basket. Will go up and finish around there. This time he inbounds the ball. We're at the start of the fourth quarter. Backdoor cut. Ends up making that little mini mid-range jumper. So what are we seeing here? I think this is a set play where he inbounds the ball here. Ball then goes up to the top. You're going to see a back screen here, and he's cutting to the rim here. Just a nice little sideline out of bounds play. Always got to keep track of the inbounder. Defender does a pretty good job of getting back into the play, but he just makes it shot up over the top. 8.5 minutes left in the fourth. I think he ended up with double digits in the fourth. Again, drive here. Gets fouled. Fearlessness going toward the rim is pretty real to me. I like how he sets himself up for this catch. I think he's basically setting himself up by catching with the left here, knowing what his limitations are as a passer, to where if this man ends up helping onto him, which he's probably going to have to at the end of the day, if he sees this help defender close too quickly, he can just use this left and loop around for the corner pass. If not, he's going to be able to keep this guy on his hip, no problem, because he's just bigger, stronger. Goes up, tries to inside hand it. Honestly, I think he probably picks up the ball just a little bit too far away from the rim. You do get a real picture here of the stride length and how comfortable he is striding out toward the basket to be able to get in toward the rim quickly and in a hurry. It's just that this one, I mean, he's picking it up right here. He's not Giannis, guys. Like, he's a 6'6" guard. It's just hard to pick up when your first pickup step is, what do we want to call that? 16, 15 feet away from the rim, probably. Second step there. Third step, or little half step to go up there. Gets the foul because he covers so much ground with the strides, ends up getting that foul. And I understand why he went up at the left, just with the way that he decided to stride this thing out by picking the ball up so early. Bamberg has started pressing. Just a light press ends up breaking the press. I love the vision here. Again, I don't even know. I mean, this is obviously a set play where it's an option for this guy to come around and either take the, kind of staggered off ball screens there, or if he feels like his man is denying him of that, can cut back door. Saraf keeping the dribble alive. And again, just pinpoint laser with that left hand, right? He can throw this ball absolutely on the money with that left hand in a way that is very impressive off of a live bounce. Gonna have to improve the right hand, but man, the accuracy with the left is just there in a way that I think he is a very real passer and has the vision and creativity to be able to make those plays. This one, Saraf is weak side corner defender here. Turning into strong side, back to weak side, back to strong side again. Stays with him. And this is where the mistake happens. I don't want to sit here and tell you that there aren't coaches in Europe that tell people to do wild things. And at some point, I might try and reach out and maybe understand a little bit more about their scheme just to confirm some of these things. But in the NBA, I can tell you that you do not want this player helping one pass away off of a corner shooter. Look, sometimes there are coaches in Europe that with 5 seconds left on the shot clock, they want players to blitz the ball basically and just force a really, really weird decision. I think this is a bad, over aggressive decision. This one kind of gets them to get the ball into the post player here. I think they're trying to get into a split action, actually looking at it here. So inbound the ball, go away from the ball. Saraf sets up for a screen here. this man's coming around to try and get an open three. Warriors do this stuff all the time with Draymond on the block here. Sometimes you'll see Gay dive to the rim off of this, and it creates just a real dilemma for this defender. So here, Gay screens, dives, ends up being that their timing is off on this action. Really, Gay kind of has to go earlier on his dive, because if he doesn't, this man does kind of have to, the shooter has to vacate that area for the most part. Otherwise, you're going to get a double on the post player as the shot clock's running down. Saraf replaces, ends up getting the loose ball, and just fires up an absolute miracle of a shot here. Ends up being a 2, I believe. Yeah, foot's inside the line. But look, going to the right, I think that shot looked very clean comparatively to some of the standstill shots that we see Saraf take. I think that's a pretty clean looking shot there. It makes me wonder if there is just like a lot of bandwidth for him to continue growing as a shooter. Kind of gets the weight transfer here from the lower half. You can literally see the weight transfer from the lower half here. Just really good. Really, really good. So this one, he's just standing at the elbow waiting, ends up getting the turnover, waits for the screen, goes to his right. Again, I think he picks it up a touch early here, if I'm being honest. So gets into the lane. I would love to see him just have like the control to be able to keep the dribble alive on this one here. I understand why he picks it up. He sees an open lane to the rim, but he doesn't really have the advantage on this man. This man just has a little bit of an easier way to get there. He's hoping that he can use his length extension on the other side of the rim to be able to shield this defender. But at the end of the day, I just don't think he has the angle on him. I think he really needs to take that extra dribble. Again, like really does like to gather far away from the rim because he has those long strides. I think there's just some real wherewithal for him to be able to take that just one small extra pound dribble and get just a little bit closer to the basket. This one, again, part of the reason I love this game from Saraf today, or yesterday, I guess is when he played it, is just really, really sharp off-ball movement. I felt like he recognizes that this defender here is beat, which means he's going to be able to cut to the rim because this man's going to have to step up in some respect. He ends up stepping up, creates just an easy pathway to the basket. Still a tight game, 83-79 after that one. It's now 99-96. They took Saraf out for a good spell there at the end for some reason. I don't totally know why. He's playing well, maybe just needed a little bit of a rest. I don't know. I felt like he was playing pretty well. And this one here, again, 10 seconds left in the game, 3-point game. Seems pretty clear that Ulm is selling out for no threes. Saraf's defender here is worried that this could be an open three. So he steps up, kind of stunts to step up to try and stop that three from getting made. Saraf gets the bucket. Easy 2, easy cut. They ended up tying this. So like you would think that's a bad shot. Bamberg went down, made one shot at the line. Can't remember who ended up making a bucket. Might have been Alfonso Plummer, maybe made a bucket for Ulm. And then Bamberg goes down, drills the 3 to win it, 103-100 without Saraf on the court. So yeah, just a really fun game to talk about for Ben Saraf because he goes for 20 points, in a German league game looks really good. Does it in ways that we didn't see at the under 18s, where he was largely an on ball player that dominated the ball and was excellent in drives. And as I mentioned, his pickups and gathers and Euro steps and finishes at the rim. But this game, we got to see a lot more of the off ball play that will be so critical to him being able to play a role in the NBA. He's not always going to be on the ball in the NBA. Sometimes he's going to have to play off the ball, play off of stars in the NBA. I do think that on the ball, there's just a lot of talent there. Didn't get a ton of chances to see it in this game necessarily. We'll break down another one real soon for Saraf, because I think he's a really intriguing, fascinating player. And I would like to do one where you get to see some of the on-ball stuff. Maybe I'll do one from this summer, the under 18s, when he was playing for Israel and really got a chance to play on the ball. But you got to see some of the defensive instincts. I thought he played pretty well on defense in this game. You got to see some of the off-ball play where he was able to make a couple of shots off the catch. You got to see, I think, probably 4 cuts for baskets in this game. And then you got to see a couple of drives all the way to the rim where you got to see the pickups. You got to see the gathers. You got to see some of the things that make him a really, really intriguing left-handed combo guard prospect that, on the ball, off the ball, might be able to make an impact in both of those respects. Now, the reason he's polarizing is obviously the jumper. We talked about the mechanics a little bit in this game, just not an extremely willing shooter, it feels like, at the pro level at this point. We'll see how that develops over the course of the next year. He's still just 18 years old. I think there's some natural touch there that showcases a lot of potential for him. So I'm in on Saraf. I right now, before any college guys play, have him in the lottery. I feel pretty good about his play to this point for Ulm. I feel great about his under 18 European Championships play this past summer. He's really been one of the pop-up guys of the early portion of this 2025 NBA draft cycle in a way that's exciting. So keep it locked here. We will be back with more NBA draft breakdowns on this site. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go subscribe to all of the social media platforms that our fearless leader, GMAC, has created for the channel. At Game Theory, Sam V, over on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, anywhere you go to get good podcasting content. The NBA season's almost here. We're excited about that. But until next time, we'll talk soon.